So this is my very first fursuit that I have ever made, and it has some flaws. From certain bald spots here and there in the fur to quite an uneven foam sculpting job. I feel like I could have done a lot better with the suit if I had made it today, which is kind of what I'm gonna do. Throughout the whole process of making Maple 2.0, I had this nagging feeling that I wanted to do something with my 1.0 head, but I just didn't want to sell it or give it away as is because of the problems. But I just hit 10K subscribers on YouTube, which is so crazy. I had not expected to do that. I decided the best course of action was to refurb this head and give it to one of y'all. I am by no means a professional fursuit maker, but I have learned a lot in the past year and a half that I've been actively in the community. And I actually ran a poll on the channel earlier this year about what species y'all like the most, and Lynx won. Which, yeah, of course, you gotta have the little ear tufts. I quite like the shape that I have it in, but it just needs a little bit more work, including making the mouth a little bit bigger, and maybe a little bit more definition in the cheeks. One of the biggest fixes for this head, though, is to fix the ears, because they are not really that well put on, and to make the head a little bit more wearable. It's very flat back here, and it sort of grips your head when you wear it. But before we do anything, we do in fact need to skin her. I think I want to try and save the eye blanks because I can probably use them again pretty easily. Thank you for your service, 1.0. I think this entire bottom jaw has to go. It's not going to be strong enough after I cut all this off. Here's where the neck meets up. It's just hot glued on. Granted, it's hot glued on there pretty tight, but God, these ears were so tragic because I don't know if you noticed, but this one right here, you can see here's where the ear starts, but here's where the head fur starts. So it just needed to be like on there a little bit more, and I think it would have been better. But even still, with the ears itself, I did not like how they turned out in the slightest. I really enjoyed my 2.0 ears. I think they're like the perfect 3D-ishness and the perfect size. So I want to do that for this ears, except like make them a lynx. Do you like this little marking right here? It's supposed to be a star, a 4-pointed star. Could you tell? Like cut out the eye socket. Oh my god. Is this do I need to tag this on YouTube? Does this count as the G word? There she goes. There's half of Maple. If I glue it back on right here, do you think it will be fine? Oh, there she is. Fully peeled. Goodness. Oh my god, I'm changing my Fursuit's design to this, actually. With the fur all removed, it was timely fine to rip off all of this old foam. Let's get started with the back of the head, which is one of my pain points for this head, is to just make it bigger for people to wear. And you know what? I think I did achieve that after a large amount of carving. Next, I went ahead and removed the old ears and the cheeks and finally the muzzle. If you ever wonder how strong hot glue is, it was more likely to actually tear the foam than to let go of its hot glue release. So, hot glue is pretty strong. After I've removed all the pieces, I began wondering if I should have just started just like a normal bucket head, then I wouldn't have to go through all this destruction process. But I think it's very telling to have this like rebirth of my first fursuit head for y'all. Hot glue is hot, guys. For the first section of sculpting, I decided to start with the muzzle because it was the, the biggest piece of the head right now. I began stacking up 4 1-inch sheets of foam into this big block and then slowly carving out the insides and making it more round. If you watched my Maple 1.0 video, you know that I struggled a lot with this muzzle, and honestly, I think I got it pretty good the first time around. I didn't have to like completely tear it off and remake it, so that's progress, baby. For the little cheek pieces right here, I wanted them to be more defined than Maple's old ones, which are basically just circles. So I cut out this weird sort of apostrophe shape with the mouth smile cut out, and I decided not to pad it any more than that, just one single layer. After the cheeks were glued on, I went ahead and trimmed them to make them more round and cute. I think these turned out really nice. I love those big smile lines. And for the ears, it's a very similar process. Cut them out flat, and then cut them in half, and then glue them at an angle so that they're more round. And just because I removed a lot of material from the head, I went ahead and patched it up with little bits of foam. I don't know why this footage is blue, but it very accurately represents my mood when I have to do lining. So here's the inside of the head lined with duct tape. This duct tape was a nightmare to work with. It's like really sticky and good for being duct tape, but not so good for being a fursuit making material. And this is my first time having an ed head, so I decided to do the tape the back of the head method. Is there a better name for that? I have no clue. And this kind of worked. I wanted to leave a lot of room in the neck so it wouldn't be too tight, and I think I did achieve that for the final lining, but this lining, ooh. For this lining, I actually got all the way to the installation phase, which included marking up the tape pattern, cutting it out on my Lycra, and then sewing most of it together before tragedy struck. So I finished the lining, and it is just horrible. This fabric here, it's a spandex Lycra. It is just so thin and floppy that there's no structure to glue it in, which honestly is one of the worst parts. My pattern just like completely messed up. Like this is supposed to be one complete piece, and it is not. It is there's a giant hole here that I couldn't figure out how to attach all the puzzle pieces together. So that also created this like weird puckering in the middle that just looks so gross, so messy. So I'm going to chill out, skip the lining for now, and revisit it once I have my new fabric. So I went ahead and got some new lining. This is a scuba knit, so it's actually a lot thicker than the Lycra I had before. Just because the suit doesn't cost you anything, I don't want it to be low quality for y'all. So that does mean redoing about 6 or 7 hours of work to do the lining again. But if you never fail, you will never learn. Unfortunately for me. For lining 2.0, I completely redid the tape pattern to make it a little bit easier for me to read, and this was the play. That weird bunching in the middle between the eyes and the muzzle was greatly negated by actually making it like a flat piece instead of a corner piece. And with my brand spankin' new fabric of neoprene, this was a breeze to sew together. I think it's because this neoprene has just a lot more structure than the original Lycra, but I think this lining turned out really, really good actually. But it's always time for the scary part, which is installing it. Time for my least favorite part of fursuit making, which of course is gluing in this lining. I'm always a little stressed to do it, especially getting into like the muzzle and eye area, just because one mistake will you can't get hot glue off, okay? So one mistake and I'm stuck with hot glue spurts everywhere. Well, there's no point delaying it any longer. I started first by gluing down the eye sockets just because I wanted a good anchor point for the rest of the lining. And then here's where my mistake started. As you can see, I started gluing in the top muzzle and the bottom muzzle just basically on the lip line, because I wanted them to act as a bigger anchor for the rest of the head. But if you don't know how the inside out stuff works, then you're probably not going to realize that you can't access the muzzle right now, the inside of the muzzle, because it's blocked off by the eye holes. So I actually had to rip off the top muzzle piece and get some more glue in there so that I could actually glue the top piece onto the muzzle. That's what I say, every fursuit is a learning journey. Now I'll know to never do that again for the next one. And look at that lining. It's not as crisp as some I've seen, but it's way better than my very first rendition and even better than my second. So, lining improvement arc? With the lining done, I went ahead and started on the actual patterning of the head. I probably should have done both sides of the head just because the base isn't perfectly symmetrical, but honestly I would get so confused as to what left and right side it was and what is the correct side to put down. I don't know if you noticed with Maple's references, but I always mix up her ears and paws about which color is where. I used the same Ed Head tape dummy to do the back of the head and also the neck. I think it turned out okay. Necks and like the back of the head still elude me on what to do, so I just sort of wing it. This was a lot more challenging than my last fursuit tape-ups. I think it's because it's my first time working on an Ed Head. So I started to do like, you know, the back taping and the under the neck taping, which I think turned out okay. I wanted to give a little bit extra room in the front of the neck just so it wouldn't be like constricting when someone wore it. Also, this duct tape is like one of the stickiest ones I've ever used. I can't cut it with scissors. I have to rip it. And I'm kind of worried it's gonna take some foam with it. I hope not. I will say, taping up your fursuit for the pattern is kind of like a little bit satisfying, a little bit scary, because you get to see the whole shape come together without like the different colors of foam and whatnot. But it also kind of looks like an alien. But I'm gonna do what I've always done with my fursuits and just kind of trust the process. I've watched a lot of people make their own fursuits, and I've seen this duct tape method before with the back of the neck and the chest piece. But I'm a little stressed because this fursuit isn't for me, so I can't exactly cut the corners that I would want to cut right now if it was a personal suit. But that does sort of challenge me to improve my workflow and to make sure that everything is looking spiff and pretty for you. Now let's go ahead and mark this up and take off this pattern. With the tape pattern all done and marked, it was time to tear it up and cut it up. Well, not actually tear it up, just cut it up. For each pattern piece, I traced them onto one section of fur and sort of cut out a square around it. That's because I do want to shave it later, and it's a lot easier to shave a big piece rather than like a million tiny little pieces. And as always when working with fur, especially shaving it, make sure you wear a mask or respirator. I do need to get myself a better dust particle respirator for my workshop, but I just, for some reason, did not. I don't know. My intuition's terrible. For cutting out fur pieces like this, it's very important to just snip the backing because you don't want to cut any of the actual fur. So you can see my scissors just doing little tiny cuts. Now it's time to put this puzzle together. I feel like I say this about every step in the fursuit making process, but this is the most daunting part. And it's not too bad. I'm just terrible at puzzles, even if it's my own puzzle. Did you know that I had to look up several of these Skyrim dungeon puzzles when I was doing my first playthrough? Yeah, it's real bad. For the face pieces, I'm mostly using my machine to sew them just because it goes by a lot faster and these pieces are pretty big. I actually went back and hand sewed on the little eyebrows and the upper nose piece just to give it a little bit more control because I didn't want my machine to eat it all. And after a long sewing session, here's what the fur looked like. It's actually two pieces right now, connect at the very top, so there's the back of the head and also the front faceplate. I didn't connect them all the way around because I wanted to add those little fluffy bits you see on the sides, and the ears won't be attached until far later. But it's always fun just seeing the mock-up come together, so if you need a little serotonin dopamine rush from making fursuits, just like assemble it every so often. Here's me adding those fluffs and closing up the entire head. And finally wrestling it back onto my mannequin. Now wait guys, I'm about to say this is the most nerve-wracking and hard part of fursuit making again. No, but for real, honestly, this time, I promise, gluing your head down as like the final step is so scary because one wrong step and you could mess up hours of work, and I didn't want that to happen, so I was going very carefully and trying to get my hot glue gun down into the crevices. And I actually ended up not being able to do that, so I had to cut all the way to up the back of the head to the diamond in order to get to the cheeks to glue them down. And to get the fur as smooth as possible, I did tug on it a little bit to make it a little bit flatter. It always helps to like think about giving your fursuit a facelift when you're gluing down fur. And this glue job, again, isn't perfect. There are some wrinkles, especially around the nose and the muzzle, where it's a little bit harder to reach with my glue gun and to stretch them. But slowly but surely, I'm getting better at doing this. It's just practice, everyone. Now it's time for
Speed Fursuit Making
Ears Edition. Do these ears remind anyone else of candy corn, or is it just me? There were some more visible seams on my fursuit, so I took my slicker brush that I got at the dollar store and just tried to pull out most of the fur fibers before I started my final shave job. Oh god, guys, it's coming, it's coming. This is the hardest part of fursuit making right here. Because, well, hear me out. It's because you're doing the final shave, everything is glued on, it's hard to come back from here, and you can easily create bald spots in your fur, especially if you're like me and you're very heavy-handed with the shaver. And no, I didn't forget the nose. It was always going to come later just because I wanted it to stick out a little bit more. So I have made quite a bit of progress this last week on my giveaway head, and it hasn't always been the easiest. But honestly, after getting through the stung by a bee phase and the final shave, I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident about this suit. This also gives me the ability to try new things, such as doing a felt mouth liner and some felt markings here on the muzzle. I thought about doing hand-sewn face markings, especially these small ones right here, but I don't know if my patience and my hand-sewing skills are quite ready for that. Obviously, there are some stuff that still need to be sewn on. The ears themselves aren't even sewn on yet, but I think I'm gonna do one big giant hand-sewing session once the entire head is pretty much done. And I even made a couple of hidden features on the suit that I'm excited to share. But you'll see that in a bit, so let's go ahead and get the suit finished. For the lip liner, I just used clear tape on the bottom and the top of the jaws and marked out a ½ inch long strip that was the same size as the bottom and top jaws out of felt. This is actually the same method I used to make eyelashes, so if you want to know how I made my eyelashes, it's just this, except I'm cutting out, well, an eyelash. Once the pieces were cut out, I just hot glued them down, and there you go, we got a nice clean lip line. For the eyes, I wanted to completely redo them because Maple 1.0 eyes was just awful to look through. Well, if you could look through them, which you couldn't, trust me. So every so often I would flip over the mesh and sort of rub in the back of it, just so it would be a little bit more visible. And they slowly started coming together with more opacity. There are some dried paint spots, but they're not too bad. I glued them down to the old eye blanks by doing this method where I put glue on the back and pushed it down into my silicone mat. The silicone mat doesn't let hot glue stick to it, so you can just peel it up and you got like a nice flat piece. It's very handy. It's always so magical seeing the eyes go in, and I just put hot glue around them and shove them into place. They're not quite a friction fit if I wanted to do a friction fit, but I like this method. It keeps the eyes in really well, and any of the rough spots are covered up by the eyelashes. Now that we are entering the final stretch, I'm here to talk about some of the features I added, which are magnets. I added magnets to this suit. I added a pair of magnets to the top of the head, as you see me do here, and you also see me not directly hot gluing the magnets to the foam. That's because with heat, magnets will demagnetize, and you'll just have a couple lumps of metal in your head, doing nothing. There's also one in the jaw as well, which I made a minky tongue for, so you can put a little tongue inside your fursuit. It's very cute. It does lead to some funny moments, like tongue on forehead look, which you can do, I guess. But I used the top magnet on the head for a little minky leaf detail. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and again for 10,000 subscribers. Oh, scratch that. And also thank you for over 100,000 views on Maple 2.0 build. That is just kind of crazy to me. And of course, my gift to y'all is Twig. So if you're watching this, you could win this head. Let's see a quick overview of the suit and how to enter. Introducing Twig. They are a silly little lynx who loves nature and adventure. They're often seen with a twig in their mouth and at least a couple leaves stuck to their fur. Not only will you be getting Twig's fursuit head, but you will also receive this handmade Minky Twig plush, pattern coming soon, a magnetic Minky tongue, and a magnetic Minky leaf. In addition, I'll also be including Maple's first paws and her first tail, as they are in need of a new home anyways. Finally, you'll also get their reference and character rights, so go nuts! Or acorns? Now time for the nitty-gritty. The rules. First, you must be at least 13 years or older to enter, and for those under the age of 18, you must get permission from a parent or legal guardian to enter. Second, this giveaway is only available to those in the United States. Third, there is no payment necessary to enter or win. Here's how you can enter this giveaway. To keep everything in order, I've opted to use Google Forms to collect entries. You can find the link to the Google form in the description and pinned comment below. There, you'll also find important information, such as in-depth prize breakdown, a complete list of rules and notices, and any other important information. This giveaway ends August 12th, 2026 at 12 p.m. Central, with the winner picked and announced August 15th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Central. And because I'm saying the scammer's favorite word, here are my official accounts, and this is the email I will be contacting the winner from. Don't get scammed, please. And I just want to say thank you again for all of the support, and if you come to see me at cons and come say hi, that makes me so giddy and excited, so if you ever see me, come say hi. I don't bite most of the time. I will say that Twig's head right here is a lot more breathable and lightweight because of the foam base. So Maple 3.0 win? And after Twig is gone, I guess I need to make myself a new pair of paws, tail, feet paws, maybe a bodysuit? Okay, final thank you, I swear. Thank you. Good luck on this giveaway. I will announce the results on my YouTube social post page, so keep an eye on that. And as always, happy crafting!